Alright, let's play some D&D!
Yeah, I'm ready for some stabby action.
I agree. Dungeons and Dragons is the highlight of my week. I lead a very sad and depressing life where I'm just a nameless nobody being ground into paste in the big cog of corporate America. Every day I wake up hoping for more in life, but I'm always disappointed. Some days I don't even know if I can get out of bed and put one foot in front of the other. But then I think about D&D night, and it gives me all of the energy that I need to get up and at 'em.
Indeed, I think you may have just ruined D&D night for all of us.
No kidding. That was kind of depressing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I want to stab anything now.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I was just trying to be vulnerable and bond with my bestest of friends.
You know, you guys, I'd be okay if we just want to cancel the game tonight. I wouldn't mind.
Sympathy from our dungeon master? Ha! I sense an ulterior motive.
Wait, did you not prepare anything for the game session again?
Crap, what's wrong with you?
Now listen here, you guys. Being a dungeon master is a lot of work. I know, I've tried before. Maybe he just needs some high quality dungeon master resources to help him out.
Indeed. Did you all know that the DM Lair publishes a monthly PDF for his patrons and that it's full of dungeon master resources?
Yeah, I've heard of that guy actually. He's not such a bad guy.
And this PDF has things in it like magic items, new monsters, adventure ideas, and even pre-made encounters.
And it even has entire D&D 5th edition adventures in it with professional grade maps designed for use on virtual tabletops such as Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds.
Oh wow, that sounds like something that would save me lots of prep time and help improve the quality of my games.
Indeed. You should become a patron today, my dear wonderful dungeon master.
Holy crap. Wait a second. Did we just do a sleazy plug for this guy's Patreon?
Maybe. Link below.
Welcome to the DM Lair. I'm Luke Hart, and I've been a dungeon master since high school. On this channel, I give practical dungeon master advice that you can use in your D&D games. Today in the Lair, I'm going to be discussing 15 types of problem dungeon masters. These are the things that DMs do that lower the quality of their games or make their games absolutely miserable and should thus be avoided. Avoided? It's that difference between the V and the B. You folks who speak Spanish will understand my troubles. I speak Spanish too. And the purpose of talking about these Dungeon Master pitfalls is, of course, so that we can be cognizant of them and thus avoid them in our own games. And doing this will then help us become better Dungeon Masters. We're not trying to intentionally do these things. That's not the goal of this video. By the way, as my group of wonderful players mentioned, I do publish high-quality professional Dungeon Master resources that my patrons can use in their D&D games. Every month, my patrons get tons of D&D resources, such as adventure ideas, magic items, NPCs, traps, new monsters, random tables, villains, pre-made encounters, and even entire adventures with maps designed for virtual tabletops such as Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. If you're looking to not only improve the quality of your games, but also reduce the amount of prep work you need to do, consider becoming a patron and getting this kicking PDF stuffed with DM resources every single month. Link below.
Holy crap, the sleaze continues!
And now on to the top Dungeon Master pitfalls. Number 1, the timid Dungeon Master. This Dungeon Master is too worried about the players having a good time and thus lets the players do whatever they want. They are afraid to say no. They are afraid to put their foot down. They allow everything. Sure, they're really considerate and they're allowing and they want you to have fun, so they let you do that thing that you're really interested in doing. They let you have that homebrew, custom crafted thing, that OP build, because they really want you to have fun in the game. But being over considerate like this and allowing anything, which usually in the case of players trends toward things that are really powerful, can take away the danger and threat in the game. Not just because you're allowing them to do things that you otherwise might not allow them to do, but also because you're afraid to put threats in the game. You're afraid to challenge them because you're afraid that maybe they won't have fun. But of course, many players play the game to be challenged, and there's great satisfaction in having something that is very difficult to overcome, and then overcoming it, and then feeling good about your accomplishment. When life is easy, when everything is handed to you, there is no pride in anything because you didn't really do anything. It was just, here you go. Anyway, that's a different subject. Another thing that happens with the timid DM is that the impact from players' actions is reduced or negligible. For instance, if the players go all murder hobo and just start going on a killing spree in town, the Dungeon Master is afraid to have real consequences happen. They're afraid to have the town guards attack the players, arrest the players. They're afraid to have the mayor hire another adventuring party that's going to go track the players down. They're too timid. They're afraid to put their feet down. And so things become too unbalanced. Everything goes the player's way. The timid Dungeon Master is also afraid to deal with problem players. They let those problems fester. They let that one player who always down talks the other players, who's always domineering, who won't let anybody else really play the game, they let that fester, and that will almost always cause problems down the road. The timid DM doesn't control the table. They don't calm down theatrics that can take over or derail the game. They don't cut off non-game related conversations that can derail the entire game. I've had players like this. They want to come in, they want to talk about, maybe it's not even D&D, it might be D&D related, it might be something totally unrelated, but that conversation can just take people down an hour-long rabbit hole when most of the players actually came to play the game. My chair is squeaking. And they're afraid to deal with distracting side conversations. I've once had a couple of players that were having side conversations like almost the entire game. It was infuriating. I spoke with them like, ugh. Not good. Very, very distracting. Not only for me, but for other players who are trying to play the game. So what is the solution for this? Timid DMs gotta grow some. They need to be the leader of the gaming group. They have to have the courage, they have to stand up, they have to be the one that takes control when needed. Because for good or for worse, most of the players are going to look to the Dungeon Master to be that leader and take control when it's needed. It is what it is, whether you like it or not. Number 2, the Railroader Dungeon Master. I mean, this is kind of self-explanatory. They railroad the players. It is their way or the highway. Nothing else can happen in the game except for what the Dungeon Master has planned out. It's almost like they're writing a book and the players are an inconvenience that interferes with the story they're trying to tell. And the story has plot armor. Everything has plot armor. No matter what the PCs do, the story is unaffected. The choices they take and the actions they make do not matter. They don't affect anything. Dungeon Masters like this might even start off a campaign by saying, I need these roles for this story. Make these characters. It's okay to pitch a type of game or a campaign to the players, but at a high level. You don't want to control every little detail. And the solution to this? Don't be a railroader. Adapt the game and plot to the players and their characters' actions. Let what they do matters and affect the storyline and the game world. Be willing to change things. Be willing to let different things happen than what you had in your brain would happen. It's okay, and chances are when you allow it to happen, folks are gonna have more fun that way. I guarantee you they will. If you want to write a book, then my suggestion is to write a book. But if you want to run a Dungeons & Dragons game, then run a Dungeons & Dragons game. Kind of related to this a little bit is the difference between railroading and sandboxing, and I am planning to do a future video about these topics and how I usually run my games. Number 3, the unprepared Dungeon Master. You guys all know this guy. He's the dude who doesn't prepare anything. Like nothing. I mean, improvising is fine. And having a style of dungeon mastering where you don't prepare a whole bunch in advance, but you have some rough frameworks and guidelines, and then you improvise, I mean, that is a style of dungeon mastering. But showing up with nothing at all prepared and just winging the whole thing, I mean, it can be done, and if your buddies are like, play some D&D, and they pressure you into doing it, and you never had an opportunity, you didn't see it coming, you got blindsided, then okay, sure, wing it. But when you know the game is coming up because it happens every 2 weeks, prepare something. I've seen groups like this at game shops, actually. I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing. The DM has their nose in the book, the Dungeon Master Guide or the Monster Manual, and is looking things up and figuring things out, and the players are all like waiting around, lounging, talking about them with themselves about things and stuff, and I could just see the look on I know what the DM is doing. They're literally trying to figure things out and plan the game session right there when the players are all waiting on them. This is disrespectful to the group. It is wasting your players' time, and it is not placing value in the game or in the players' time. And I feel like a lot of times dungeon masters like this justify the lack of prep as I'm just running a sandbox game. No, that is not what a sandbox game is. It is not. I really got to do that video about sandbox and railroad and stuff like that. And what is the solution for this? Prepare for your game. I mean, how more obvious does it gotta be? Just do some preparation prior to your game. And I've made videos about creating adventures and creating elements for your game. There's a whole catalog of videos out there that are gonna help you prepare for your game. If you don't have any idea of what to even prep, go take a look at some of those things. Or come join us on a Friday live stream, because we usually create stuff, which is preparation for games. Those live streams are on Twitch, by the way. Number 4, the overbearing mother hen dungeon master. This dungeon master uses NPCs to monologue about the great and magnificent world the dungeon master has created, including lore and all of the cool things that are there. There are massive information dumps about things that may or may not be related to the current adventure or story arc. They want to show off all the intricate details of their world and everything they've created. And they also want to be a player, not just a dungeon master. So they might do things like have NPCs or even the dreaded DMPC follow the group along so that they can also play along in the game. Of course, the issue with this is that they already get to be everybody in the game, all of the NPCs, everything, and they get to plan and create the world and do all that stuff. But they still want to be the star, they still want to have the DM NPC that goes along. And it's not just that, they often use the DMPC or NPCs to reveal information to the party and guide them in certain directions. In other words, they don't let the players think for themselves. It's one thing to present a problem and a situation to your players, it is another thing to give them a strong suggestion as to what they should do to resolve it. One is good, the other is going too far. And you're just like, oh, come, get on my apron, I'll just carry you along because you can't be trusted to think for yourselves. And the dungeon master might metagame to help the party as well. This ruins the fun and mystery for the players when you are this overbearing mother hen dungeon master. And so my solution? Just don't do it. Number 5, the dungeon master who shows what's behind the curtain. I can't stand this. I cannot stand when I'm a player and a dungeon master shows me what's behind the curtain. I hate it. Basically, this sort of dungeon master is showing the players what's behind the DM screen. They might give them metagame information that ruins the fun and mystery for the players. For instance, you might tell the players that you fudged dice rolls. You might tell them that that dragon could have killed them and should have killed them, but you as the dungeon master did X, Y, and Z to save them. You might, I don't know, give them a mysterious puzzle box and then say they shouldn't even bother trying to solve it because it's impossible. This takes away the enjoyable aspects of the game. We want the mystery. We don't want to know that you did all these things behind the screen. We just don't. Keep that to yourself. If you need to share that information with somebody else, I don't know, go talk to your girlfriend, tell your cat, just don't tell your players. It ruins the verisimilitude of the game. It ruins our suspension of disbelief. It ruins the mystery. And here's the thing, players will sometimes say they want a peek behind the screen. They might tell you that they want to know X, Y, and Z, but they really don't. It does ruin the game for them at one level or another. Even if they ask, even if they want to know, you are doing them a favor and you are making the game better for them when you don't tell them. It's like the kid who just wants to gorge on candy, but the wise parent knows that it's better for them overall in the long run if they don't just gorge on candy, if they have like some vegetables and stuff in there too. So my solution for this? Just don't do it? Yeah? That's probably going to be my solution for many of these things. Just don't do the thing I just described, which is a good start. Number 6, the adversarial dungeon master. This dungeon master has the attitude of DM versus player, and they genuinely want the players to lose. They want the characters to die. It's a contest for them. It really is. They hate saying yes to what players want to do, and they look for ways to say no. They look for ways to block them. They are uncompromising, and everything must be their way, even when they don't have good logic for why things should be their way. It's like a little kid throwing a temper tantrum. Nah! There's no real reason. It's gotta be my way. They purposefully design deadly encounters in a negative way, not as a challenge that players might be forewarned about, but instead they put it there as a gotcha. No advanced warning, no nothing, anything, just boom, you're dead. And they'll do things like metagame against the players in order to win. But what does it mean for a dungeon master to win? They just have a mean spirit. You can feel it in them. You can feel it in their demeanor and how they are. And they do not have everyone's fun in mind when they're playing the Dungeon Master's role. And what is the solution here? I actually have a solution here besides just don't do it. Here's the thing. It's okay to run a challenging game for your players. I feel I run challenging games for my players. But as a dungeon master, you should secretly be rooting for them to win and to overcome those challenges. Yes, you want to play your bad guys. Yes, you want to play your bad guys because your bad guys want to win, so they're going to go at it hard. But meanwhile, you want your players to win. You want their characters to win. You are rooting for them. So that is the attitude you actually want to have. And it's all about attitude. It's all about attitude.
Who's this? Squeaky.
Got Squeaky down here.
What? Come here, Squeaky. I got Squeaky.
Say hi to camera, Squeaky. Oh, he does not like being picked up.
Squeaky. He's my big Squeaky.
He's adorable. Thanks, Squeaky. Number 7, the whimsical dungeon master. This is the dude who changes the direction of the game and what they want to do based on whatever they happen to be most excited about at the moment. They want to change the setting, the world that the game takes place in because they just got done reading the Eberron book and they think it's really cool. They want to change the game system because they just watched a sci-fi movie and are super excited about it. They get distracted by everything and anything and keep on changing things in the game, and there is no continuity to things. Things are always in a state of flux. This disappoints and frustrates players. Just the moment that they're like getting into a game, they're getting into their characters, the dungeon master comes in and is like, oh, we're gonna do something different now, boys. Players have to abandon characters, they have to change systems, there are shifting storylines, etc., etc., etc. I think you get my point here. The solution is to have consistency in your game. Pick something and play it out. Use main plot arcs and then also have character arcs for some diversity in your game. I did a whole video about campaign planning that talks about these things. You can also have multiple groups so you can do a variety of things that excite you as a dungeon master. I personally started reading the Eberron book a few months ago and really liked the game setting, but I'm not just gonna tell my players that we're done playing Curse of Strahd and we're gonna go to a homebrew Eberron game. Like, I'm not gonna do that to them. It might be a year or two before I get to run an Eberron game for them. And that's just life. Number 8, dungeon masters who lie. Kind of like me, because we're not actually going to do all 15 problem DM types this week. This video got a little long on me, so we're gonna cover the rest of them next week. Everybody's just thumbs downing this video right now. You suck, Luke. Remember, if you're looking for monthly Dungeon Master resources such as magic items, interesting NPCs, and entire D&D adventures, don't forget to check out my Patreon. This monthly PDF of DM resources is just one of the many benefits my patrons receive. And if you enjoyed the bait and switch I just pulled, promising 15 things, but only giving you 7 really, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment for the algorithm down below. And until next week when I go over the rest of the problem DM types, click right here to learn about how to deal with the different problem player types. And until next time, let's play D&D.